The wind howled like a wounded creature, tearing through the treetops in sharp, erratic bursts. It was the kind of storm that silenced everything else. No birds, no distant car engines, not even the rustle of animals beneath the snow. Just wind and the soft, relentless fall of white. Max had known many winters, but none like this. His thick fur, once golden and vibrant, was now weathered and faded, clumped with frost and dust from too many roads walked alone. The limp in his hind leg had grown more pronounced over the years, the pain in his joints flaring with every drop in temperature. But still, he walked, slowly, steadily, through the white abyss swallowing the forest. He was a wanderer now. No collar, no home, only memory and instinct. Something had drawn him deeper into these woods, despite the growing storm. He didn't know what. The scent of something, someone, faint, fragile, human. He followed it without hesitation. It had been 3 days since the snow began to fall, but this was different. The wind carried something desperate, urgent, as if the world itself were holding its breath. And then he heard it. Barely audible through the blizzard's roar, a whimper, high-pitched, afraid, human. Max's ears perked despite the wind. He turned, pressing his nose low to the snow, inhaling deeply. There it was again, that same scent, but closer now. A child. He began to run, or rather the closest thing to a run his old limbs would allow. Snow slapped against his face. Branches cracked under the weight of ice. He stumbled once, twice, but never stopped. Something deeper than instinct drove him forward now, something closer to memory. And then he saw her. A flash of red in the snow. Curled beneath a fallen pine, tiny arms wrapped around herself. Her lips were blue, her eyes half closed. Her mittened hand was barely visible above the snow, twitching. Max stopped. The wind shrieked through the trees around them, but he heard nothing else. Not the pain in his leg, not the cold in his bones. Only the small, trembling breaths of the child before him. He stepped forward. One paw, then another. He reached her side and gently nudged her cheek with his nose. She didn't react. He whined softly, then lowered himself beside her, curling his body around her small frame. His tail tucked over her legs, his side pressed firm against her back. His chest rose and fell in rhythm with hers, slow and steady, like an anchor in a storm. She stirred. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Cold?" Max licked her cheek, his warm breath fogging in the frozen air. "You're not alone," his body said. "I'm here." Hours passed. The snow continued to fall. The world disappeared beneath white. But beneath the bent pine, 2 lives clung to one another, and survived. The house was too quiet. Sarah Grace stood in the kitchen, frozen in place, holding a wet dish towel in her hand. The clock on the wall ticked with maddening precision. Each second that passed pressed down harder on her chest, like an invisible weight. "Lily?" she called again, louder this time. No answer. She turned toward the back door, still slightly ajar. A gust of wind slipped through the gap, sending a chilling draft through the room. Snow had begun to collect just inside the doorway, melting into a wet, muddy stain on the hardwood floor. Sarah dropped the towel. "Lily!" Her scream cut through the stillness. Moments later, Mark burst in from the garage, wiping his hands with a rag, engine grease still fresh under his nails. "What's wrong?" "She's gone," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "I told her to stay inside while I finished the dishes. Just a few minutes. Just a few—" Mark didn't wait to hear more. He grabbed his coat and flashlight, already shouting for Lily as he bolted out into the cold. Outside, the storm was building fast. Snow came in sideways waves, blurring the yard, the woods, even the horizon. The wind shrieked through the bare branches like an angry ghost. Sarah grabbed her phone with trembling fingers and called 911. "My daughter, she's 3. She wandered outside. I don't know how long she's been gone. Please, there's a storm." The dispatcher's voice was calm but urgent. "Stay inside. We're sending search and rescue now. What's she wearing?" "Red coat, blue mittens. Her boots have stars on them. She's so small. Please find her." "We will, ma'am. Stay on the line with me." But Sarah couldn't stay on the line. She dropped the phone, threw on her coat, and ran. Within an hour, the woods were filled with voices. Search parties combed through the trees, flashlights flickering in the whiteness. Snowmobiles zipped across the open trails, their engines distant and muffled. People called Lily's name until their throats were raw. Mark refused to stop. "She couldn't have gone far," he shouted. "She hates the cold. She's probably hiding somewhere. Lily!" But the deeper they went into the forest, the harder it became to see even a few feet ahead. Footprints vanished within minutes. Landmarks disappeared behind walls of snow, and the temperature kept falling. Lily's last footprints were found near the frozen stream at the edge of Haven Ridge Woods. Beyond that, nothing but snow. Search and rescue regrouped under a cluster of pines. "She's been out here too long," one of them whispered. "Even in a coat, a kid that small." "Don't say it," Sarah snapped. Her eyes were wild with desperation. "She's alive! I know she is!" Somewhere deep inside her, a voice echoed. "Hold on, baby. Please, just hold on." Far away from the searchlights, under the bent pine, Max kept watch. The girl, Lily, had drifted into a light sleep, her breathing shallow but steady. Her small body still trembled from time to time, but less than before. Max's body heat had formed a cocoon around her, his thick fur now crusted with frost along the edges. He had done this before. Not exactly this, but something close. There had been another child once, another winter, another home. The memory was soft and painful, like stepping on an old wound. He didn't dwell on it. He had learned that memories didn't keep you alive. But staying awake did. He blinked slowly, fighting fatigue. Each time his eyes closed, the cold tried to take him. But he refused, because she was still breathing, and he would not let the storm take her. The snow was falling so thick now, it seemed to erase sound itself. Mark's flashlight beam cut a narrow tunnel through the white, his breath coming fast and ragged. His boots crunched with effort, sinking deep into the drifts. Every tree looked the same now, every shadow a false hope. Then he heard it, a faint bark, sharp, quick, desperate. He froze. Another bark followed, then a third. Mark cupped his hands around his mouth. "Lily?" No response, only more barking, louder this time, urgent, leading. He turned and ran toward the sound. 2 searchers spotted him and followed, stumbling through the deep snow. The barking grew stronger. Then came another sound, softer, weaker, a child's cry. Just one word, barely audible. "Mama." They found them beneath the bent pine. Max was curled tightly around the girl, his back coated in a hard crust of snow. His head lifted when they approached, but he didn't growl. He didn't move. His eyes were alert, but exhausted. Lily lay against his chest, eyes half-lidded, her cheeks pale, but alive. Mark dropped to his knees, arms outstretched. "Lily!" Her eyes fluttered open. "Daddy!" And then she began to cry. So did Mark. He scooped her into his arms, holding her close against his chest. Her body was ice cold, but she was breathing. She was alive. One of the rescuers looked down at Max. My God, he whispered. That dog saved her. An emergency blanket was wrapped around Lily. Hand warmers pressed into her mittens. A radio message was sent. Subject found. Alive. I repeat, alive. The next part moved in a blur. Snowmobiles arrived. Paramedics. Bright lights in the dark woods. Voices, shouts, tears. Max didn't react to any of it. He stood slowly, shakily, and limped toward the girl as they loaded her onto the rescue sled. His legs trembled. One paw dragged slightly in the snow, but he kept walking until he reached the sled and rested his chin on its edge. Lily opened her eyes and reached for him. Max! One of the EMTs looked at the others. We're taking the dog, too. No one argued. Sarah was already at the hospital when the doors burst open. She saw Lily before she saw anything else. Her baby, wrapped in blankets, an oxygen mask on her tiny face, but awake, alive. She let out a sound between a sob and a prayer and rushed to her. Behind the stretcher, a silent shadow followed on unsteady legs. Max. The hospital staff hesitated at first, but when they saw how Lily clung to him, they let him stay. One nurse knelt and offered him a towel. Another brought a bowl of water. A third reached out to pet his head and paused, her hand hovering in mid-air. His eyes met hers. There was something human in them, something broken, something beautiful. Later that night, Lily slept. So did Sarah. So did the entire town. But Max lay awake in the hospital room, curled beside the girl he had saved. And for the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar. As dawn crept through the window, Max finally closed his eyes, a fragile peace settling over him. Outside, the world stirred awake, unaware of the quiet miracle unfolding within these walls. Lily's soft breathing was a steady rhythm that soothed his restless heart. For so long, he had been lost, adrift in shadows and silence. But now, with her small hand wrapped around his paw, he found hope. Maybe this was a new beginning. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone anymore. And in that moment, Max allowed himself to believe in something more. A future filled with warmth, love, and healing.